What's up, y'all? It's the video you've been waiting for. My first wholesale deal. Yeah, I know. So, for this video, we're gonna go through 3 topics: acquisition, the process, and closing. Because there's a lot of stuff that maybe some gurus haven't went through for you. So I'm gonna break down each of the details of exactly how I did it. So let's begin. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So for this exact deal, I was looking at off markets, I was looking at Zillow, and the best way that it was discovered was through for sale by owner. So if you've understand or learned about filtering for sale by owner, it is a true pocket that may be overlooked entirely. What I'm trying to say here is, if you look at for sale by owner, you're probably gonna find a good deal if you're consistent. It's not gonna be the first one, it's not gonna be the second one, it may even be the 20th one, but if you get to the number and you text and you underwrite your offer, you may just get a yes. So the way that I discovered the for sale by owner was in a market that isn't really a micro market, but the pocket of it has a much lower ARV and it has a much likely chance, because of the deteriorating plethora of houses, it has more chances to find a for sale by owner that is going to do the deep discount. So this particular property right here, actually I'm just gonna show a made up property. So bink. All right, so this property, I mean, it kind of looked like that. I don't want to show the exact property because I'm professional. This property was listed by the owner. I think I may have been like one of the first 10 to 20 to contact the owner, because by the time I started texting the owner, I was right there at, hey, this is the offer we can make, and she was ready to go with the offer. And I actually offered higher than the listed amount, which was $7,500. I know, a house for $7,500, but hey, this is the market of some Detroit properties. Now, me saying this now may not be effective in the future. Detroit may fully revitalize, but for this particular property, it was for sale by owner. I remember it was for sale by owner. It was inherited and kept for a while, but it wasn't maintenance. It was actually rented out to a tenant that had turned out to be an alcoholic, and that tenant had actually passed away. However, I didn't learn of that in the first conversation. The first conversation was my offer being presented saying, hey, this is how much we can offer to you because this is how much it will be worth for us given the repairs that's necessary. Now, I didn't get the repairs right away because there wasn't even pictures of the property. That's how I knew. Subconsciously, when I saw $7,500 and there was no pictures, I knew it had to be a distressed situation. That had given me a premium and a leverage to the underwriting that occurred following texting the owner. The owner described the place possibly having mold, possibly having unknown foundation issues, needed to be cleared out of junk, and that she couldn't attest for the porch or the structural issue. So at that moment, I knew it was a major rehab, if not a complete teardown, that it would be structural and cosmetic. So automatically, I knew for the size of the house, which was like a little bit more than 1,000 square foot, that it would be at least 60 to 70,000. And per my plethora of learning, the various top of the line wholesalers, I was able to firmly confirm my numbers. So with that being said, after I confirmed the renovation and the rehab scope, I then presented my offer at about $10,000. The seller was on board but not ready to make that decision on signing. And then the process of months of following up, like
Several months later.
months of following up of, hey, like, are you ready to sell? Hey, we're still ready at 10,000. When will you be able to sign the contract? I prepared it for you so we can close and we can get this out of the way and get the property off your hands. We've spoken on the phone multiple times, maybe even more than 7 times. I called constantly. I had made maybe 2 voicemails at a time, like called, person didn't answer, called again, made a voicemail, and then I'd follow up with a text. This is how you have to be for some sellers that are in a distressed situation but are not urgently willing to sign the contract, although they agreed to sell at the price presented. When these sellers are in a distressed situation but aren't in an urgent manner, your responsibility is to help them understand the relief that you are presenting to them by purchasing their property, regardless of the price. You purchasing their property takes maintenance, utilities, insurance, taxes. That takes all of that off of their hands. So even though you feel urgent to get the property under contract, you must also relay that in the most calm and professional way. So with constant text and voicemails, the seller responded very calmly and was like, hey, I've been out of the state, so this and this, and it just kept going with the seller being very reluctant and, quite frankly, like a procrastinator, because the seller knew that she did not want the property anymore, yet she had continually procrastinated, felt as though she almost didn't want to sell, even though she intended to sell. I actually had to remind her, hey, well, you had listed this for sale, so let's get this on the roll, let's get this completed, and you don't have to worry about the property. I had to remind her multiple times, like, hey, if you had listed this for sale, this is the offer price that we have. If not, then that's it. I can't help you. And sometimes you have to be very blunt. It's not always about being like, hey, like, all right, well, if you're not ready to sell yet, reach out to me. Sellers will not reach out to you. If you're trying to make a close, if you're trying to make a deal, the sellers that are not urgent but in a distressed situation, you have to read it. So you have to understand when a seller is maybe even under the water and they need you to help pull them out of the water. You have to reach out to them and be like, hey, I understand you have this, and like A, B, and C going on. With me presenting this cash offer is going to help you out of that. So some sellers are not going to reach out. You can't be passive when it comes to deals, right? Because this is sales at the end of it. So when you find a seller that is in a particular situation that may be similar, and you know they're in a distressed situation, they told you the repairs, they told you they're out of state, they told you they can't keep up with the property taxes, they actually have taxes owed, that's when you have to be constant at it. Now, be professional, don't be rude, but even so, sometimes you just got to understand how to speak with the seller, and you got to understand how to read a seller. It may not be the thing that you get on the first try, but hey, you keep persistent. If you keep persistent, you will get a deal. My persistency was, hey, like, you may, I forget how it went, but it was a very fun texting conversation. It was something about like, hey, like, if you're under the water right now, like, reach out and grab my hand, and then she was like, oh, something like swimming kind of fun. I don't know, it was something like that, right? And I was like, oh no, I'm navigating this boat, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be that person to help the seller, because at the end of it, if you don't, then someone else will, right? So basically it took 6 months, 6 months to close this deal, and I'm very grateful for it. I'm super grateful for it. It showed me reps. It showed I built my negotiation skill. Yee! But I also learned the value of patience, the value of follow-up, the value of nurturing, and the value of really listening. Because at the end of it, it wasn't just me saying, hey, are you ready to sell? Hey, are you ready to sell? I actually then started to value the time of me getting to connect to the seller. Like, hey, like, tell me about what was growing up in Detroit in the 50s. Like, oh, your dad had a mechanic shop. Oh, he, like, you know, was not too affluent, but, you know, well enough to purchase his own property, and then he gifted the property to you after. That's pretty cool. Oh, like TVs having just these two channels or something. Oh, cool. That's interesting. Like, really interesting. Like, I love, like, listening to people. I really enjoy listening to stories, especially like elderly people. You know, I was gonna say elderly folk people. You know, I like to say folk because I'm from Louisiana. Hey, long story short, I got to learn about the seller a little bit. Was able to just kind of really tie all the pieces of, like, hey, this is why the property is being sold. You know, the seller has this going on, has her own life unrelated to the property, hence that she's out of the state of Michigan, to that made her unable to really make the process speed through a month, right? So because the property took about 6 months to close on, and this wasn't each week, hey, are you ready to sell? It was like, oh, if you're not ready to sell, okay. Or like, hey, if you're not ready to sell, like, I don't know, then I guess I can't help you. And then weeks after, being like, let me reach out to the seller, see if she's ready to sign, or see if she's like more ready to be at that like place mentally to move the process forward, right? So persistently, I'm texting other sellers looking for other deals, and every now and then I would follow up and I would say, hey, like, how are things going? We're still at this price, right? We even went from 10 to like 6 grand to about like 5,300, and then to 75, and then to 76, 100 more than her asking price initially. I had the property listed on Facebook, a couple pictures, and buyers reached out constantly. People that said they wanted to buy property to move into, all types of buyers, like want to move in the property, want to buy the property for family, first property buyers, and then several investors that either liked the price or didn't like the price, and finally came to an agreement with an investor to purchase at $8,500, and I had net me a nice $900. So moral of the story is persistence is key. Persistency is everything with every deal, because it's going to be more rare that you're going to get someone call you from an inbound, say, hey, I have this property I want to sell, and you say, okay, we're going to give you $120,000, and then the seller's just like, oh, cool, I was hoping for 110 or something, you know? Because if it was that easy, like, come on, if it was really that easy, I think you already understand the answer for that. If you don't, leave a comment that says answer. So again, moral of the story is follow up, consistency. Really listen to the seller, and before you know it, you'll have 15 grand deals, 20 grand deals. You know, take the 10 grand deals as well, because those are important. All deals are grateful. So my acquisitions was awesome. It was a great like rep building stage. The underwriting, shout out to RJ Bates for the underwriting, and my disposition, it was flawless. You know, I had the Google Photos, I had the Facebook Marketplace, I posted to many investor pages, group pages. So from that experience, I'm very excited to close many more deals. Thank you for listening, and if you didn't like the edits, bear with me. This is one of my very few YouTube videos. I hardly ever even get on here to talk with y'all. And if you like the video and subscribe. Anyhow, that's all I have to say. Stay tuned for more. I'm working on my second deal right now, coordinating with a buyer, and if the buyer finalizes, checks the property, does a walkthrough, likes the price, then I'll be closing on my second deal, and I'll have an even better edit video for that, you know. It'll probably be a shorter video as well, because it'll just be a real quick synopsis. Anyhow, stay tuned for the next video, stay positive, and until next time.